This is the Domain Magnate Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Micheal Bereslavsky.
Hello, dear guests. Welcome to this episode of the Domain Magnate Show. We have with us today John Ainsworth, CEO of Data Driven Marketing. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you for joining us. So I'm really excited to get into this discussion about funnels. But before we get into it, can you tell us a little more about the company you run? How big is it? How many people do you have in there?
Yeah, so Data Driven Marketing is an agency that helps online course creators to increase their revenue 20 to 100% through improving their funnels. And we're relatively small. We have a team of 5 of us, and we do about $20,000 a month in revenue. And what we've been doing is developing a lot of systems and resources, with the plan being to then launch into group coaching so we can help a huge number of people. So a lot of our focus so far has been like a boutique agency, so that we build up all these systems, and then we're going to launch out and help out hundreds of people through our group coaching.
That sounds pretty good. And so, John, you are an expert on funnels, and I've been around online marketing for quite a while, probably a decade and a half. And I've used funnels from time to time, but I think I've never really got a good understanding of how they work or why are they so important. So I think that's a good point to start. So can you explain why is it important, and how big can it be, the difference between having a good funnel and a bad funnel?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because certain businesses having one of these automated funnels isn't really the right solution for them. It's not the thing that they need to have in place. And for other businesses, it's like absolutely astronomical the kind of difference it can make. So there's a couple of groups of people I find who it really is huge for. If you've got a ton of website traffic already, and then you're not getting the conversions, you're not getting the number of people from that who are signing up that you wished you had, then a funnel is probably the solution, the bit in between. So take for us with our clients, we've got a lot of online course creators who might have 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 website visitors a month, but they're not really making all that much revenue. If all you do is you have your courses available for sale on the site, some people will buy them, but really not that many. And if you've got all that you've got as a sign up on your site is a newsletter, then a tiny proportion of people will get onto your email list, but not that many. And so if you set up the whole process and you optimize every stage throughout that, you can get 3, 5, 10 times as many people turning into clients as you would have done otherwise. You can get much bigger sales. If you've got a SaaS business and you are trying to convert more of your site visitors into customers, then that's going to make an enormous difference for you. And we've worked with a SaaS business for a while now, and he's in that time, I think 5 times his revenue. He's just hit $1 million a year recently. And so there are certain businesses like that where they've got the traffic and they're not converting people. The other time that a funnel makes an enormous difference is if you want to scale through ads. So if you're trying to scale a business through ads, then you need to be able to make your money back on the ad spend quite quickly, unless you've got an enormous reserve of cash in the bank. So most people want to make that money back in 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. Some people, it's like, okay, we can wait 60 or 90 days, something like that. But you need something that's going to convert a new visitor into buying something relatively quickly so that you can get the cash back and put more money into ads. And the sooner you make the money back, the sooner you have money to spend on ads again. And so if you've got a business with a great funnel at the front end, then you can scale the size of it and the email list size and the size of the business astronomically. And most people don't really understand this and don't really get it. And they'll spend money on ads and get frustrated with it. But if you can get that money back quickly, then it's huge for it.
Yeah, that does sound like a huge difference. If you can get 10 times more clients, that's definitely worth the investment.
Right.
And so you mentioned courses, online courses. Probably most businesses that sell online or digital products would be where would you would really want to have a good funnel, right? Or businesses that sell leads, basically sell like higher value products. Would that be accurate to say?
Yeah, the kind of people where funnels make an enormous difference, SaaS businesses, online courses, the ones that, anything that's basically selling something actually online where it's a relatively, where you've got like some way of someone starting spending money at a relatively low number. If you're doing something where you're like, I want to be selling people something for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, you're probably going to work better through networking and referrals and making connections with people. I say probably because there are times when you can run marketing agencies with expensive services selling through funnels as well. It does work. You just have to have a slightly different type of funnel at the front end for that. You might have something where you have, so for an agency, you might have an ad through to a video that promotes a free call with somebody that then gets them into a cheap audit, that then kind of there's these little stages, little steps along the way to get them into spending more money. But I know quite a few people who are doing those more expensive offers who find that type of marketing doesn't work as well for them. If you're selling something cheaper, then having a funnel is huge. It's like it just works beautifully well. It's very much the style that fits. What have you found in the past? Because you mentioned you'd had some businesses where you'd had funnels and some where you haven't. What's the ones that have worked for you with having a funnel?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you mentioned that the lower cost products, actually, the funnels are more important there. I was thinking it might be the opposite of the higher cost products. But I guess it makes sense because then if the decision is quick, then it's a low cost product, then a good funnel would get them to just buy right away. Yeah, for us, I think a lot depends on the size of the purchase, right? So we've had a few really successful funnels. So one side, we had a site in the dating niche a few years ago, and it had a funnel selling some digital product, selling an ebook. It had an ebook and I think maybe some videos, some digital product. And the funnel worked pretty good. It was, so we haven't really changed it much since we acquired this site. So people would go, they would sign up with a newsletter. There was a lead magnet. They would get to download something for free. And then they get a bunch of emails, a sequence, so they can go and buy the ebook. And I think it cost something like $20 or $30. So the conversion rates were pretty good. We also had some examples where it just didn't work. Like we had a website, an education niche, and it was mostly monetized through ads. But then we decided to just go and build an ebook and sell it to people. It was a site about different international scholarships. And people just didn't really buy the ebook. The sales were quite low. I think and we tried promoting it. We tried building a better funnel. We tried like putting it in different places on the site. So what would you say? Because you haven't seen the site, so it's probably difficult for you to diagnose. But just off the top of your head, if you had like, what are the main reasons why funnels don't work? Digital products don't sell?
Yeah, so the hardest things to get right in my experience are, first of all, building up an audience, and secondly, getting product market fit. And so we tend to come into people where they've already got those things in place. So they're like, you've got a product that the audience really likes, and they've got an audience who's then going to be interested in their product. Those things, like getting product market fit, is really hard and involves a whole load of trial and error and figuring out the audience and really understanding their problems and getting all that stuff exactly right. So my suspicion from what you're saying is that something about the product market fit wasn't right in that case, that there was something about that ebook that didn't quite appeal to the audience, that maybe it solved a problem that they said they wanted to solve, but actually they weren't as bothered about it as they said they were, or something about the way that it was going to solve it, or the problem, the time frame that you're able to promise it to them in. All those kind of things can have an impact. So as an example, what we like to do with the very first product that we're offering to people, either on the site or when they've just signed up to the email list, is what we call a tripwire product. And that's a name from Digital Marketer. And we try and make that into something that's going to solve their problem within about a week. So it has to be a pretty small, specific problem, but it's something where they go, okay, I can get this quite cheaply. And in a week, I can get a distinct improvement by doing ideally 15 minutes work on this thing a day. And if you can promise that, and it's a problem they actually want to solve, then you tend to convert quite well at that stage. if you try and solve too big of a problem, or it's going to take them too long, or it's going to be too much work, or any of those kind of things, then they don't convert as well. So you've got to align a whole bunch of stuff there, which is not terribly easy. I do what I see at least as easier work, which is you come in afterwards and go, right, you've got that bit figured. Now we're going to apply standard funnel structures to actually make sure that that converts much better, that a much higher percentage of people buy it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now that I think about it, we haven't really thought about it in that, in that structure. So, what does a typical funnel look like? Can you maybe show us an example if you have something you prepared, or just explain like what would the most simple funnel look like, and how would a really good funnel look like generally?
Yeah, sure. So what I'll do, I'll share my screen and I'll map this. I need you to enable screen sharing.
Let me see. Yep. Should work now.
Perfect. So this is a system called Funnelytics. And what this allows you to do is map out funnels visually. And so what we're typically seeing in terms of funnels that people have is they've got their website and they're getting traffic into the website from somewhere. Let's say Google, maybe from Facebook. Traffic's they've got some organic traffic coming in already. And typically what people do is they have whatever they've got available for sale mentioned on the website. So in our case, we're normally working with course creators. So as they've got a number of courses available on the site, and they've got maybe, let's say, 3 or 5 different courses. So they have a number of different sales pages. After that, people will go through to an order form. And then after that, they'll go through to a thank you page. And that's kind of typically what people have got on the site. And then a lot of people will have a opt-in, some kind of a lead magnet. And so a lot of times it's not mentioned in a lot of places. So it'll be on the home page and it might be at the bottom of some pages, but they'll have an opt-in. And typically people are getting an opt-in rate of about 0.5 to 1%. That's of website visitors. That's pretty standard.
Is that across all industries more or less? So like under 1%, 1.5%?
Yeah, I've seen that across software and online courses and e-commerce and agencies. That seems to be pretty standard, 0.5 to 1%. Now, a good rate is about 2%. A great rate is about 5%. And the best we've ever managed to get is 8.5%. So that just gives some context. I'll come back to like how that's possible in a bit in terms of mapping this out. So after somebody opts in, what most people do is they then send them some emails, and they'll redirect them immediately to a thank you page saying thank you for opting in. And this is like completely normal. I'll give an example. So I'll pull one up here. So if we sign up here for the lead magnet, we just get a thank you message that comes up straight away. And that's like what most people have on their websites.
Perfect. And do you have on that website, do you have some kind of lead magnet or something they promise you for sign up?
This one, yeah. So this was this lead magnet was it's gone now because I've signed up for it. But I think it was like 5 examples of hiring ads or something along those kind of lines.
Yeah.
So most people then after that send out a number of emails over the course of the next few weeks and months, and they send them out on a semi-regular basis, and it's not terribly organized. And then every so often, people will send out a few emails with a promotion. So they'll say, right, it's Black Friday. I'm going to send people to one of my sales pages and make a 50% discount, something like that. That is the most typical thing that we see. That's kind of the structure of where most people are at the moment. It's pretty mediocre in my experience, in my opinion. Do you want me to talk you through kind of what the ideal version of that looks like?
That certainly makes sense. Now that I look at it, this is pretty similar to what we've done with many sites, kind of with a low effort without really focusing on the funnel as much. And is that something that often loses a lot of leads? That like how, when you say it's suboptimal, how big is the difference between this kind of funnel and a really good funnel?
Yeah, in terms of if you have the same amount of website traffic without not including starting to drive traffic through ads, anything like that, you can generally increase the revenue of something like this 2 to maybe 5 times the revenue by implementing the right kind of funnel. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but like that's the kind of increase that's doable. We've seen clients go from making 3,000 to 5,000 a month up to making 40,000 a month so far. We've seen people manage to increase their opt-in rate between 2 and probably the highest is 10 times more email subscribers per month.
Okay, so that's a typical funnel. That's actually what we have right now, Domain Magnate. Now I feel a little bit embarrassed, but we do have the most simple
this is
funnel.
Normal. This is everybody.
People sign up and they get some emails occasionally, and sometimes the emails include some promotion and some products. That's right.
Yeah. So I'll take you through some of the things that you can put in place that make this convert way, way better and are pretty powerful. So the first one is, and this is I mentioned this first because it's very straightforward to put in place. So instead of having people go to a thank you page, let's say you are selling a low priced ebook or something similar. You send them, instead of sending them a thank you page, you send them to a sales page immediately. At this stage, about 2 to 3% of people are ready to buy straight away. They've gone to your website, they like the look of it, they signed up for your email list, they're in the state where they can think of the problem, they're nice and clear on it, and they're ready to buy straight away. So you can redirect them to one of your $11, offer it for $27, something like that. People will sign up at that stage. The thing that you do after that, and this is unbelievably straightforward, and I used this in the last couple of weeks with a coaching client, help him to double his revenue straight away just by implementing this one idea. It's something called order bumps and upsells. And this works when you're selling digital products. So on the order page, instead of having just credit card details, you put in an order bump. And an order bump is basically where there's a tick box and 2 sentences description for someone to add something else to their order. 40 to 60% of people will add this extra thing to their cart if you have the right offer at that stage.
That's an upsell, right?
That's an order bump. So there's order bumps and upsells. An order bump is just a tick box on the checkout page, and an upsell is what happens on the next page, which is only doable with certain kinds of funnel software. But somebody has just bought, they've put their credit card details in, they've clicked pay, the payment's gone through, all good. Now you show them another sales page with another offer available on it. And they can click, yes, please add to cart, or yes, please also charge me for this. And it'll also charge their credit card. They don't have to enter their credit card details again, or they can click, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Putting an upsell and an order bump in place typically will double the average order value of what people are spending if you get it right. And so if you have these behind every place that you're taking orders, you can double your revenue just through that one idea. It's super powerful, and very, very few people have that in place.
That is huge. So that's just adding an extra product in the order cart, and then at what point do you show the upsell? Is it after they've already made the order or before?
Yeah, after they've made the order. The upsell comes straight after they've made the order. I'll try and find an example of an upsell page to show you.
What about sites that just have one product that don't, or one service?
Yeah. So the way that I like to look at that is if somebody has only one thing, what can you offer that's the more expensive version of it? And this is like a lot of my job when I'm working with people is about trying to help them understand what their other offers could be. Because let's say you're offering a course, then you could also offer as the upsell, would you also like coaching? And now maybe you don't want to do coaching yourself, but maybe you've got somebody who could do the coaching that would go along with the course as well. And so you look at, well, would that fit? Would that be a good match for your audience? Would that be something that would fit for your business? If you've got multiple products, it's nice and straightforward. You just offer one of your other products or the other thing that, fits in with it. If you're doing a course and you don't want to do a ton of these one-to-one sessions, maybe you could do a group thing that goes with it. If you're selling something that is a basic course, maybe you record a Q&A video that also goes with it. That's the order bump. That's like a little extra thing that goes alongside it. The trick with a lot of these things is what can you do to help the people who want to spend more money to get a better service from you? And I recognize if you've only got one thing, creating more products is time consuming and awkward. But it also, if it could double the amount of money you're making, it's like, that's pretty good, So there's kind of a balance to be found there. You could also offer somebody else's product. That's possible as well. There's lots of creative ways to kind of figure this stuff out.
And should it be a more expensive product or a less expensive product that you offer?
Yeah, so generally the order bump should be a similar kind of price to the main product that you're offering, maybe slightly cheaper. The upsell should be something more expensive. So in our case, if we're doing one of these kind of funnels for online courses are cheap, relatively cheap. So we'd be looking at the initial tripwire might be $27, the order bump might be $37, the upsell might be $97, something in that kind of price range. If you look at ClickFunnels, if you sign up for any of their products, you'll see you can sign up for the software for a free trial, and then you add in your credit card details, and it also asks you, would you like to buy a course that goes with this as well? So they've kind of combined software and courses together.
Yeah, that sounds good. So what would be some more advanced looking funnels?
Right, yeah. So I want to show you a couple of examples here of what these actually look like in place. If you are looking here at an upsell, if you see this, your order is successful, it's gone through, you've bought your main offer, you can add a ticket to this event. That's like an example of an upsell.
So this is a conference. It's like a related conference to. Oh,
yeah.
Cool. And it's a live conference. People, who want to learn. So that's reasonable. And how do you have some data? How often do people do it?
Yeah, so it depends on the price of what you're offering as the upsell, but typically 15 to 30% of people will buy the upsell if it's within a price range of about 3 times what they just paid. So if you do the maths on that, if it's 3 times as much and a third of people buy it, you've managed to double the order value.
Nice.
So going back to in terms of what else could you put in to make a funnel more advanced, if we take this where we've got someone going through to the upsell, you can put, hypothetically, you can put an infinite number of these upsells. There comes a point when there's diminishing returns and it's just a little, you worry that you're going to be too annoying to people. But you could put a second upsell. You could sometimes people see people put a third upsell as well. Or alternatively, you can have a downsell. And what a downsell is basically the same idea, but just saying to people, instead, so you didn't buy, you clicked the no, thank you very much button. And it says, would you like a payment plan? Maybe you don't want to spend all that money in one go. If we're offering something more expensive, would you like to have that in 3 payments? Or would you like to have the option of only paying the second half if you feel that it was worth it and take some of the risk away from people, that kind of thing. So that's your front end tripwire funnel. The next thing that we see that works unbelievably well is webinar funnels. And a lot of people don't do this because they're kind of scared of how do you actually do a really good webinar, and they don't understand the automation for it. But they work very, very well for selling more expensive offers. With webinar funnels, you can sell stuff up to about $2,000. And the way that we do that is we send people through after they've gone to this opt-in and they've signed up and they've either bought or not bought that tripwire. We're going to start sending them some emails. And in those emails, we're offering them an indoctrination sequence, useful little bits of information. And they can get the full version of it if they sign up for the webinar. So in all of those emails, we're promoting sign up for a webinar. And this is known as a just-in-time webinar or an evergreen webinar. It's something done using software where it happens automatically every 15 minutes. Huge benefit of doing this evergreen is the attendance rates on an evergreen webinar are about 2 to 3 times as good as they are on actual live webinars. And second benefit, you don't have to do them live all the time.
Yeah, I've seen it quite a lot online, and it always strikes me as odd because it's pretty obvious that it's not a really live webinar if it says, oh, it's going to start in 2 minutes, and then you wait 2 minutes and it says again it's going to start in 15 minutes. Doesn't that make people think that maybe the whole thing is fake? Or doesn't that make them lose faith potentially in the product?
Yeah, I think there's 2 important ways that you can address that. One is you don't have to say that it's live. You don't need to say to people, this is actually happening live. You can just say, it's the webinar and it starts in 15 minutes. So I think it's important not to lie to people. The second part of it is, that it works better with people who are in audiences who are not digital marketers. Digital marketers and people who work in doing digital marketing know all of this stuff. They've seen it 100 times. But if you're promoting a language learning course to people where English isn't their first language, or you're promoting a knitting course, or you're selling software for helping people with some obscure maid services, they don't know about this kind of thing. So they either assume that it's live, or they're not bothered by the fact that it's an automated webinar that isn't. It's not something that they've kind of become immune to, that they've seen a load of times. So this tends to work way better in non-digital marketing spaces.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the way these kind of funnels work, you send people to an opt-in, you redirect them to the webinar. That plays every 15 minutes. You then point them at the end of that through to a sales page. Now, the reason that webinars are super powerful is that you can provide an enormous amount of value in an hour. You can really help people. You can build a lot of trust. You can build up your authority. You can show people how the world really works with regards to this thing that you are selling. So let's say, for example, that you are selling marketing services for people doing tour operating businesses that are maybe seven figures. Now, at the moment, that's not a great market to be in, but we did one of these webinar funnels with a client like that a couple of years ago, and it worked great at the time. And a lot of those businesses don't understand that they can use digital marketing in order to be able to scale their business. They've had certain ways they've driven business in, lots of referrals, lots of networking, that kind of thing. And they don't understand that they can also use a digital marketing funnel and they can have Facebook ads to grow their business. There's all these things they don't understand about the way that it works. And if you can explain those concepts so that they get it, then at the end of it, if you're making an offer of a course or a done-for-you service, like these guys were, then they're much more likely to go with you because now they trust you. You've explained how the world works. And they're also more likely to hire you because they understand that your solution solves their problem because you've explained the entire concept. So you've got this whole hour to build up a lot of trust around that. At the end, you point people to the sales page. And if they don't buy, then what you can do is you can then follow up with specific email sequences. So someone might have an email based on if they attended but didn't go to the sales page, or they went to the sales page but they didn't buy, or they didn't ever attend in the first place. They opted in but they didn't actually attend. Then you'll have different sequences for each of these people. And this is part of the beauty of automation, is you can tag people based on where they are and what they've done, and therefore send them exactly the right kind of information, the right kind of useful email that gets them back on track.
And you mentioned before that the reasonable opt-in rate is like 0.5% to 1%. What's a kind of average rate for email open rate or clicks for most of these kind of things?
Yeah, so an average open rate for most people is 20 to 30%. And we see that across a number of different industries and a number of different clients. These emails tend to get a slightly higher conversion rate, open rate, because they are so specific, because they're really targeted to where people are in the process, and they're very specific to their situation. And also because it's earlier in the process, you tend to see open rates decrease the longer somebody's been on your email list. There are a few people who see increasing open rates because they're unbelievably expert copywriters. But for most people, that's just not realistic, and it's going to decrease down over time. In terms of the numbers with this kind of a funnel, like what we're seeing is about 55% of people will actually attend that webinar after they've opted in for it, if you're doing it with a just-in-time automated webinar. And somewhere between 1 to 3, possibly 5% of people who opt in are actually going to buy what it is you've got available at the end. And because that conversion rate's relatively low, but the content is long, what fits is to sell something more expensive in this kind of funnel. So something around minimum of $500 up to maybe $2,000, something in that kind of range.
Okay, that's pretty good. So a webinar funnel is going to be started with an email, with some lead gen, with some magnet lead, and then they go to the webinar, and then after the webinar finishes, right away you get a sales page. Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
So that's a more, you asked about what's a more complex kind of additional funnel. That is much harder to build. It's much harder to get right. It's not what we normally suggest to somebody to do second. It's normally like 8th in the list in terms of building this out. But you asked about what's the more complex stuff. So I wanted to show that. The thing that we recommend to most people to do second is just start sending more email promotions. It's the simplest thing to increase revenue. We've had clients go from $10,000 to $20,000 a month in revenue just by sending 2 email promotions a month instead of 1. So it's a very straightforward kind of system. If you normally have a few emails go out every couple of months, instead figure out, well, what else could you promote every other week? We find 2 promotions a month is a really good kind of a balance that allows people to have enough time to put everything together for it, and then and provide enough value and content to the email list to keep them warm, but also make enough offers. And we have some clients where they've only got one main course and they also sell affiliate offers, or they find different hooks, different ways of making that same one promotion that they've got. There's a kind of a number of ways of cutting this. If someone's got lots of products, it's very straightforward. We just recommend every 2 weeks, do another promotion of something. Once you've gone through everything, or 6 months, whichever one comes sooner, cycle back through and start again.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. Let me ask you a specific question. So for Domain Magnate, we have an email list, and I usually just send it once a month, once every few months, because I feel that we don't have that much going on to really send everyone an email about it. So I usually just send it once there is something interesting. But I have had a lot of feedback from people wanting to get more emails. But how can we really prepare emails in an efficient way and add something useful, something interesting to people? What are some common ways of doing it?
Yeah. So when you're doing email promotions, there is a very beautiful and elegant way of being able to send out the content that is both useful and also makes the sale. And there's 2 different systems that we see. One of them came from a lady called Shona Beckwith. She runs Perfect English Grammar, and she's very focused on being helpful and useful to all of her clients, all of her customers. And she sells courses for English grammar for people who are, not non-native speakers. And so what she does is she has a course that's going to be sold, and she'll put it on discount for a week, 30% off. And during that week, every day, she will send a useful little tip from in the course. So she'll just take something people can do in 2, 3, 5 minutes, put it into the email. And then at the end of the email, she'll say, if you'd like more exercises, tips, helpful stuff like this, you can buy the course that goes with this. for 30% off this week. And every day for 5 days, she sends out those tips and has that promotion. On the fifth day, you then send a second email that is just promotional, that's saying last chance to get this, 3 hours left, and otherwise it's going to go back up in price. So that's one system, one method. The other one that's slightly more promotional is the same concept, pull out useful tips from in the course for the first 3 days, and then the next 3 days is purely promotion. So it's saying, here's the benefits of the course, here's the problems that you're going to suffer if you don't get this. Here's, reasons why you should go and buy. Here's a testimonial. Here's a case study, something like that. And that's a system, a method used by Tom Sears from Blues Guitar Master. That's where I learned it from. Tom and I were in a mastermind together. And he has 12 courses and he has 12 promotional sequences, all with 6 emails. And he cycles through every 3 months and just goes back to the start again. And he just runs through that and it makes him tens of thousands of dollars every month. And it's just, beautifully elegant. The two of those are very similar. Both contain a lot of value. Both keep the unsubscribe rate pretty low. The promotional one works slightly better, but not everybody is. Some people are more comfortable with the one that's just content.
Sounds good. So basically adding some useful tips or running some promotions from time to time. And would it generally be better to send people longer emails or shorter?
There's pros and cons with that. So if you're going to send longer emails, you have to be good enough at writing to keep people's attention throughout the whole thing. So they actually get to the end or they get to the bit that you're most interested in reaching. If you read any stuff from Andre Chaperon, if you sign up to his email list, he will do enormous long emails. And he's the guy I mentioned earlier whose open rate actually goes up over time because he's so engaging and he's so much fun and you trust him so much and it's so helpful that people love them and they want to read more of them. For most people, I would suggest shorter emails. I think just a story, a useful tip, a case study, something like that in a few hundred words and be done with it for the day. And that's a better model for most people to use.
Okay, so here's another interesting example at Dealflow Brokerage, which is a M&A advisory firm. We send out emails once we have a new listing. So once we have a new listing, we send out the email and everyone can see what the new lead is. But other than that, we don't really send a lot of emails. Occasionally, if the price is reduced on the listing or if we have some kind of promotion, but there are no promotions here because it's not really a product, it's more like a service.
Right.
And so what would be some ideas to consider? That's one thing. But the other side of that is we don't actually know if people want to see a lot of emails because our main value from the list, of course, is to keep clients long term. So we are not really looking to make some small sales. We want to give people better service. So how would we know if people want to get more emails or fewer emails, if they want to get some tips or not?
Yeah, so it's the first part in terms of what kind of content. One of the beautiful things with the mixture between content marketing and promotions is that you can use content to help people to change their worldview so that they are ready to buy stuff from you. So let me ask you a couple of questions about it. For people on your email list, are they all at the stage where they're thinking, great, I want to buy something as soon as a good offer comes along, I'm going to snap it up? Or is there a certain portion of them who maybe they don't know enough stuff about what would be the right kind of thing for them to buy, or why they maybe should be buying something that's more expensive, for example, or like what are the things that your audience doesn't know about that stops them from buying from you?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So we do occasionally publish some new content, new articles, and then they send it out to people. But we could do that in a more coordinated manner and then like send an email with some specific questions, right? So that's a good idea.
Yeah. So one of the things like that we try and do throughout the emails to combine, always trying to combine useful content with something that's going to move somebody closer to buying, is look at what is the things that are stopping them at the moment. What are their objections to buying? And maybe it's that they don't believe this is going to work for them. Maybe it's that they think that this is too expensive or that there's a lack of trust or whatever it happens to be in your situation. And then you can use case studies, or articles that are teaching people something useful or what have you, in order to move them further along to being a hot prospect where they're kind of actually ready to spend money. We find there's a model of people who are unaware of there being a problem, to being problem aware, to being solution aware, to being aware of your solution, and then all the way through to being hot and ready to buy. And so what we're trying to do with the content is move people from being at the cold end of that spectrum towards being the hot end. Because then when you send out a listing, they'll be like, oh, great, I'm ready. I've got set up. I've got everything in place. I know I need to get something great. I'm going to go ahead and put in an offer or whatever it might be in your case. And I think that's where it becomes easy to justify spending money on creating the content, because you can see, oh, I'm not just sending out useful, nice content. I'm sending out useful content that also is going to lead to an increase in the top line.
That's very nice. And regarding the second part, so how can you tell how often you should actually send emails to the specific list?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know for definite in your circumstance, but for most people, we find send way too few emails. So some people who say you should send at least one a day. We tend towards doing normally about 3 a week, 5 during the promotional sequence. You're looking at an audience, though, who has a much longer time frame for making their decisions. So it seems like it would make sense to send quite a lot less often. So it might be 1 or 2 a week, I would guess, in your circumstance. I don't have a hard and fast rule for how to figure that one out. I mean, one thing you can look at is what's your unsubscribe rate, and does that go up too much if you start sending more emails, and what is the increase in the amount of money that you're making? Because, if the email list goes down, but you make way more money, well, it's like, okay, fine, we could probably do some other stuff to build the list up more. But in advance of that, as just a rule of thumb, I would say for you, I would guess at 1 or 2 emails a week would probably be good.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. That's great. So we've learned quite a bit here. And can you tell us what would be some sites that actually don't need a funnel?
Yeah, I think there are certain businesses where they are better served by working through networking and referrals. And it tends to be, in my experience, stuff that is way more expensive, and you can do a small number of deals. Like there's a guy I know who has built up a couple of businesses in the it's in the technology space around security, and he did a lot of it through, they would go to conferences and they would talk to people who were doing multi-million-dollar deals with, and they're taking them out for lunches and they're building up relationships with them. And their website, and if they've got a funnel, it's just not that relevant. It's not really the way that stuff is done in that industry. Most stuff that is online, that is built around, do you have a big email list? Can you afford to spend money on ads in order to grow that list? Do you see a direct relation between the list size and how much money you make? Most of those are like a great fit for it, which is, I'm guessing, most of the business is owned by the people who you're working with. I see some people who prefer to go with the ads model instead. Almost always you will make more money from building up a funnel and having products than through ads. But if you don't have products, or you don't want to spend the time building the products, then it's like, well, then there's not much point to the funnel. You might as well just stick at that stage with the ads model.
And how would you know where it's worth really investing the money and effort to build a funnel and sell products? So, for example, we have many content sites in niches like, dogs and cats and different things about pets, or something like on different home improvement related niches.
Yeah.
Like
so all
affiliates, like affiliate sites, for example, also. Does it work?
Yeah. I think that's a really, really easy way to test this kind of stuff is with affiliate offers. So if you say, right, I'm thinking about selling courses, or I'm thinking about selling ebooks or something like that, try selling somebody else's one first. Find something for an affiliate deal from ClickBank or something similar, whatever looks to be like a really high quality product that you can then go and actually test selling it. Promote that out, put it up on your website, put it up as a tripwire, put it up on, promote it to an email list. What's the response rate? How many people buy? Do you tend to get people actually from that audience buying something? If you do, then it's like, oh, I could make 100% commission on this if I had my own product, right? It's worth going and putting the time into creating it. I think that's the easiest way to test it out. The other thing to take into account, though, is do you have the time or do you have somebody that you could put in charge of creating that product? Because product creation and getting product market fit right is really time consuming and it's really hard. So if you have that, then great. But take that into account before starting work on this kind of thing, I'd say.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you. Are there any other things that I haven't asked you about that are really important to know about funnels?
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, is that the ability to scale a business with ads is one of the biggest reasons why funnels are valuable. So I talked a lot about what do you do to convert your current traffic, more of your current traffic into sales. But if you have this in place and you get it working well, and then you're able to scale with ads, you can take a business to being 2, 5, 10 times the size of seen before through the ads part of it, even after you've done all the work on the rest of the business. And there seem to be these different parts of online marketing space that don't really are not totally aware of each other. Like the affiliate space, you have some people who do affiliate work through ads and you have other people who do affiliate work through organic traffic, and they don't tend to come together. And if you have an organic site that's got a bunch of traffic, you build a funnel, you make it work well enough that you can then start to scale it with ads, you can take that to a much, much larger kind of a size. My wife does Facebook ads for people who are multi-million-dollar businesses doing millions of dollars in ad spend. And I see people just not even being aware of that space, that is a thing that exists, that they could reach up to that kind of size. And it involves an enormous amount of work and a lot of changes, but I just think it's something people should know that is doable, that exists.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think that for most content sites, if organic traffic that are monetized by ads or like Amazon affiliate and other affiliate offers, building a funnel can really help increase revenues? Because from what we are seeing, like very few websites in the space actually have funnels, let alone just many of them just don't even have an email list and email form.
Yeah, we had one client who she was monetizing through ads. She had a load of traffic. She was making $3,000 a month. She's now making $40,000 a month through a funnel and products.
Wow.
And it's not like it's not taking a bunch of work, but...
What did she do? What kind of niche is that? What did she do?
That's the English grammar one that I mentioned earlier.
So she just implemented an email sequence, added a funnel, added some more products, and that's it? The same amount of traffic?
Same amount of traffic. Yeah, I think she has increased her traffic in the meantime. I think, but it's not increased, whatever that is, 15 times. So it's the only thing so what you said was right. She has put those things in place, but you mentioned the word just. It's taken like 2.5 years of work on doing all of that stuff to make it happen, But it is a dramatically larger amount of revenue from it now than it was.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you, John. That was very interesting. How can people reach out to you and tell us more about your service?
Yeah, sure. So people can learn more about us on datadrivenmarketing.co, or they can join our Facebook group, the Advanced Online Course Creators Group, if they are a course creator and want to learn more about this. We have a podcast that we publish interviews in that group first off, and then share the art of selling online courses is the podcast. And if people want to get help with actually building these funnels, then we have a service. We have a limited number of customers at any one time, but we have a service doing this. If they want to learn more about how to do this themselves or have a team learn about it, then we have a group coaching program where we're teaching about that as well.
Well, thank you, John. Pleasure to talk to you. Till next time.
You too, Micheal. Thanks.
Domain Magnate is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnate.com for more details.